It is 9:30. The December meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors will come to order. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. The clerk has taken roll. At this time, I would ask Supervisor Hamilton to come forward for the invocation, ask the body to rise, and remain standing for our pledge of allegiance.
You guys, I'm innocent. Good morning. Good morning. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day that you have given us to do the work for the people of Wood County. Allow us to make decisions that make life easier for all the people we serve and help the county grow in all areas. Lord, we ask that you keep the people in our armed forces and protective services under your protection, keeping them safe from harm and guiding them in their activities. Finally, in this season of joy and happiness, may all your people enjoy all the blessings of this time. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Hamilton. Minutes from November's meeting. Motion by Hamilton, second, Fisher. We have a motion and second on the floor to approve the minutes from the November meeting. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. We have no excusals today. Appointments, we have a 3-year term for Marla Cummings to the Ethics Committee, a 5-year term for Diane Liebert to the Civil Service Commission, and an appointment to the Health and Human Services Committee to fill an unexpired term with Dr. Stephen Kulik. I think we can take those by voice vote. Motion by Zerflu, second by Hamilton. We have a motion and seconded on the floor to approve those appointments. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of those appointments indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. We have no resignations today. Supervisor Clendenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked for an excusal at 11:45. You noted that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Again, we have no resignations today. If there is no objection from the board, I would like to move up our recognitions in front of public comment. Is there any objection to doing that? Seeing none, Mr. Ruling, would you please come forward?
Son? Everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
My name is Brent Ruick. I'm the Child Support Director, and I'm also the Chair of the Legislative Committee for the Wisconsin Child Support Enforcement Association. We're here today to recognize Representative Scott Krug for the Wisconsin Child Support Enforcement Association's Legislator of the Year Award. This recognition is to Representative Krug and Senator Teston. They both shared this award. We were able to present it to Senator Teston at the end of September at our annual banquet. Representative Krug was unable to make it, so we are able to recognize him here today. And I want to first talk a little bit about what Representative Krug did to deserve this award. First off, the Child Support Enforcement Association is an association that's been around since 1976. So this is a long storied association, something that has been around for a long time, so there's a lot of history here, so this award has true meaning. Representative Krug worked with us to an AB 954 legislation that he authored, and worked with Senator Teston to also get companion legislation introduced in the Senate. We're able to get this legislation to a public hearing, where we were able to give testimony in respect to the legislation. We ultimately didn't get the legislation passed, but we made great strides, and we're hopeful that in the next legislative session we'll be able to get this legislation passed. Also, Representative Krug has been very helpful with our budget request, and we're very hopeful that he will help us in the next session to increase our general purpose revenue by $1.5 million per year. So with that, I'd like Representative Krug to come up to accept this award.
I just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here today to accept this award. It means a lot. One of the biggest issues I work on as the chairman of the Public Benefit Reform Committee is making sure that both parents that are in a child's life are taking responsibility for that child, to put less pressure on the taxpayer, to put less pressure on our social benefit programs. That's the bill that we worked on last session exclusively, is the AB 954, where we take the opportunity to establish paternity in an easier fashion, to make sure there's a connection for every child to have two parents involved in their life, custodial or non-custodial. Beyond that, like Brent had mentioned, we did extend their budget a little bit to do some child support enforcement activities. And then finally, we want to make sure that everybody involved in our public benefit programs is actually taking advantage of our work opportunities. Our work training program, FSET especially, is now available for custodial and non-custodial parents. So if one of the parents involved doesn't have a good job opportunity, we are providing that job training for them through the FSET program and through other programs as well. We want to make sure that in a day and age where our workforce needs are huge and our unemployment numbers are low, that people understand the opportunities that are out there and we get people connected with good jobs and good opportunities. So I just wanted to thank everybody today for the opportunity to be here, and thank Brent and the Child Support Enforcement Agency for this opportunity to accept this award. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Ruink, and we would also like to extend our thanks to Representative Krug for his legislative work regarding child support. That takes us to public comment today. Is there anyone here that wishes to make public comment at this time? Anyone in public comment? Please come forward to the microphone, identify yourself. You'll have 3 minutes for your comment. Looks like there's a lot. We'll probably be fairly strict on our 3 minutes today. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Randy Moody. I'm the chairman for the town of Port Edwards. And a couple months ago, we came to you with a resolution concerning the nitrates, groundwater. And this isn't something that we need to take real lightly here. We need to move on real fast. It's not like asking you to fix a road that's damaging cars. This is damaging people's lives and their health. And I haven't heard anything back from the county. Was wondering what is moving forward on that. I know at the end of that meeting that I presented that, like the health committee or whatever, health department presented a presentation, but that was studies that's going to take years to do. And this isn't something we can wait years to do. This is something we have to do now. Like you said, there's people, their health is going downhill, and like you said, myself, neighbors, we have no drinking water. We have to buy bottled water ourselves. I know there is an MOU in process. I'm not sure where that's standing right now, but just wondering where is the county standing on this, and what are you moving forward on it? Are you going to act on this? Like I said, it's been a couple months, and it's not something we can wait on. We have to do something now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Matthews, also living in the same area.
Is that microphone on? No. Would somebody check and see if that microphone's on?
Okay. Done? Okay. Well, first off, Merry Christmas, everybody. And thank you for your prayer, for concern for the individual and the people. And I think that's what it comes down to. I did see an article here about the groundwater also in Green Bay area. And it just came out in December 13th about the manure from the dairy farms and stuff. And a village kitchen owner, Chris Jacobs, got a call from the DNR saying that because their nitrate levels were so high, that they had to no longer drink the water, could allow them to drink the water anymore, and then put up a sign that they couldn't serve that anymore. So it's by having that resolution puts you in control of what we've been trying to do here. We had a DNR meeting, and they wanted to go from 3 years to 5 years of this extension, and go from monthly testing of these test wells to every 3 months. And they're all, seven, like I said, 7 out of 9 of them are out of compliant all the time. The other two are 1/3 of the time out of compliant. Yet nothing is being done to rectify that unless it comes from, I think, the people to keep them through this resolution, to keep control of pushing them forward to do something, because I haven't heard what that would months ago, 7, 8 months ago, that we heard this, had this meeting. Haven't heard if they extended it, went to the 3-year, kept the 3-year, went to the 5-year. We haven't heard anything. And so, I mean, there's continually having bad groundwater all the way through here. So anyway, I just thought that if it went through us people here, we could say, okay, we're in control, you guys are in control, this is what needs to be done, these are the steps. And rather than being, seems to be, there's no strength from these other outfits to help fight the agriculture department or something, but you know, got to take the bull by the horns. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Maggie Molesky, and I'm with the Wisconsin Rapids Aqua Skiers, here on behalf of the Wood County Sheriff's Rescue Squad. When I found out about it, I was a little upset, to say the least. I've been the tournament director at the world's largest water ski tournament since 2002, and the Wood County Rescue has been with us that whole time except for 2 or 3 years somewhere in there. I went out to the group of water skiers within the state of Wisconsin and asked for some input on it. And one of the things I received was a letter from Dwayne Snow, who is a senior judge for the tournament and has been around a lot longer than I have. He says, Maggie, the level of safety, peace of mind, and on-the-water rescue provided by the Wood County Sheriff's Rescue Squad is the very reason the world's largest water ski show tournament can be produced with over 4,000 water ski rides. Coordination between the tournament safety crew and the Wood County Sheriff's Rescue Squad is second to none. We officials, as well as the competitors, enjoy that level of safety and encourage the continuance of this service. Now, to go on a little bit about the aqua skiers, I know that when we first joined the aqua skiers back in the late 80s, Wood County Rescue, when asked, would come up and provide water safety training for our skiers. Now, you have to realize that some of our skiers are as young as 5 and 6 years old. And if there's an accident on the water with a pyramid going down and some of these kids are around, they get scared because they don't know what to do. The rescue squad came out and trained those kids to know what to do, to know where to go, to know how to listen. So the aqua skiers, the tournament, we're all in favor of keeping the Wood County Rescue Squad in continuance here in Wood County. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Pam Ironside. I am the mother of Danielle Ironside. She's a 32-year-old young lady who is about 2 years old. She has brought me to this place. I have spent probably 25 to 30 years speaking on behalf of families throughout Wood County in a number of committees, sharing the issues and concerns and the needs of our families and how we can work together to serve and support those families. I'm here today in support of the rescue, obviously. They are, I have to say thank you to Dean and Mike and Dennis who were with the Wood County Rescue, and we and just know that I'm a founding member of Project Lifesaver. So when we brought our team together of community leaders about Project Lifesaver, we had no funding at that time. But these 3 men stepped up and said, we as Wood County Rescue would be honored to be a part of this, and we will do the training and we will help make this happen. And I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but it is one of the leaders. Our team here in Wood County is one of the leaders throughout the state. We do a lot of statewide trainings. We have really promoted and supported other counties to get up and running with Project Lifesaver. So I just wanted to share that and I still hate public speaking after 30 years of doing this, but I do it for Danielle, I do it for other families like mine. If it wasn't, again, for Dean, Mike, and Dennis, they worked within the committee and the community to nurture training, education, and figure out the needed equipment. They didn't do it as a job. They did it because they understood the need and understood it could be their family member. The really cool thing, they get that people like my daughter, who has a simple joy of a secure 1 or 2-year-old, she knows no fear and she knows no harm. They understand that your family member with dementia or Alzheimer that has the same lack of awareness and danger. My perception of the Wood County Rescue is that it removes the silo throughout the county and individual departments. They have the capacity to bridge and fill and work cohesively with everyone and anyone. It is a consistent, countywide, well-trained group of community leaders that have resources and supports that supersedes the service areas. I know that we have trained professionals throughout Wood County Fire Departments and EMS. Please know that both Wisconsin Rapids and Marshall's fire chiefs also strongly support Project Lifesaver. They were a part of that founding member team that wanted to move forward with this. So our support of Wood County Rescue is in no way meant to take anything away from our fire and emergency individuals and departments. But our current day reality is that we want and need to have as many passionate, organized, and well-trained hands on deck available at all times. I want men and women who step up and in and will do everything in their power to prepare for an emergency situation. Thank you. I did submit the rest of this, so you should get it in your packet.
Bob Sorensen, Town of Port Edwards. Just to add on to what Randy and Dan said regarding the nitrate issues in our area. We first became aware of elevated nitrate levels in our water back in March of 2018. We had 11 parts per million. Had that tested in June, and we're up to 16. Had it retested in November, and we're still around 16. I must say, to some degree, I was relieved it didn't go up from that 16. But that nitrate isn't going away fast, and we've got to do something. For the long term, if we don't ward off the sources of this nitrate through today's agricultural practices, those who come after us will have to pay the price of unsafe water throughout their lifetimes at the expense of the business we conduct today. So we've got to do something. We know where the nitrate's coming from. I see from the MOU that we'll be hopefully conducting a study. But once we have that data, we need to do something and do something soon, because that nitrate's continuing to be dumped into the system, and it's not going away if we permit the status quo to continue. Thank you.
Morning. Arnie Nystrom, Town of Grand Rapids Chairman, speaking on behalf today of the Town of Grand Rapids Board. We're here to support item number 5.1 on page 287 of your long docket today. This will give Sheriff Becker the opportunity to determine the value and the scope of service that Wood County Rescue provides. It's a valuable service providing not only auto, water, ice, dive team, search, rescues, scene securements. Within Wood County, we have 15 miles of Wisconsin River. We have Lake Wazeecha, fully within the Wood County Park, Nepco Lake, Dexter Lake, alongside with other Wood County parks. We also have two airports. The south one, Alexander Field, seeing a great improvement in traffic and safety. An online petition that you may hear about later has over 2,800 signatures on it in support. I'm asking you to please support that resolution. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Thank you. I'm Fire Chief Bob Hyde from Town of Grand Rapids, and I also represent Tony Conklo from the Rudolph Fire Department as well. Wood County Rescue has been a huge asset to us. As our Police Chief Mel Peterson has said, they're a force multiplier. When there's a critical incident and you know you have Wood County Rescue coming, they're a great help. I know there's the north-south argument. I'm not even going to get into that. But also closing rescue on this short a time frame would really put a few departments in this area that depend on them heavily in a kind of a scramble mode. They're highly skilled, they're good at what they do, they cost the county very little money. Please support item 5.1. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is David Cushall, and I just want to be here to support the rescue squad. It's already an established entity in our Wood County, and it just gives people peace of mind because we have volunteers and professionals and are here to help everybody in the Wood County. It's non-biased, and it just makes people feel more safe. Like at the ski show and so on and so forth, all these different places and activities that they're there for. So please, we have a service in place. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gary Johnson. I'm the co-owner of United Emergency Medical Response, also the Director of Ambulance Operations there. We handle about 15% of Wood County for paramedic ambulance service. We run about 1,800 calls a year. We have all the major highways, the railroads. We probably run the most car accidents because we're all rural. We depend heavily on Wood County Rescue and the volunteer fire departments. If you've ever been at a scene, and if you haven't, please ride with us. There's only so much you can ask one department to do. If we have a fire department on scene, I want them on the hose. I want Wood County Rescue assisting on auto extrication. We got traffic control. You can only ask so much of a department, whether it be Wood County Rescue or the volunteer fire departments. They all do a great job, but we can't wait 20 minutes for mutual aid when they all suddenly decide they got to be on fire and we need auto extrication, because that's when people die. I've been in this since '77, been on over 10,000 ambulance calls. I've seen too many people die waiting for the jaws of life. Secondly, there's nothing in the contracts that I can see for our 5 townships from the fire departments that say they do auto extrication. They do, they have it, and they do a great job. But Wood County Rescue is the only one chartered on paper to do that I have seen actual auto extrication. So I ask you to please, board, support this resolution for Wood County Rescue. Thank you.
My name is Tom Heiser from town of Grand Rapids. I am not a member of Wood County, nor have I ever been a member of the Wood County Rescue Squad. I come before this unit as a citizen of Wood County who has over 30 years of law enforcement and 35 years of volunteer firefighter experience. Wood County is unique with 2 large population cities on each end. I'm tired of the north-south divide discussion. Wisconsin Rapids is the county seat and the courthouse is located here. As supervisors, you should look at what is good for the best of the entire county. There have been discussions that Rescue Squad is a duplication of services. Wood County has other duplication of services located branches and office in Marshfield for the convenience of the citizens of Marshfield, so they do not have to come to Rapids for these services. Examples: Human Services, Health Department, Sheriff's Department, and Veteran Services. These are paid for by the citizens of Wood County, all the citizens of Wood County. There is a need for rescue currently located in South Wood County area that can be utilized by all of Wood County. Please approve Resolution 5.1 being presented by the Judicial and Legislative Committee to continue the rescue services. Thank you.
Good morning, Lonnie Zellner, past member of the Wood County Rescue Squad for 13 years, and I served 3 years as their president. 2 issues and concerns that I have heard about rescue are duplication of services and this north-south Wood County. Both are foolish arguments. Common sense would tell you that rescue would not be paged to an accident south of Marshfield or west of Pittsville. By the time they arrived, that scene would be well under control. However, rescue would respond to a call for mutual aid in those areas or any adjoining county for that matter. Sheriff Reichert stated recently on a radio interview that rescue's response area is a very limited area in the southeastern part of the county. I do not see Rudolph, Vesper, Grand Rapids, Saratoga, Nakusa, and Port Edwards as a limited area. The county board back in the 1990s, when I was on the squad, considered paying the rescue squad members what they called paid on call. It would be minimal, like $1 an hour. So when you take a 12-hour shift, here's your $12. But it's their way, it would have been their way of saying thank you for what you do. We got a hold of the county board back then and we said, no thank you. Take that proposal right off the table. We are a volunteer squad, and once money factors in, now you're doing it for a different reason. I was extricating at a scene back in the 90s when a volunteer firefighter stepped up to the car and took a look inside and passed out at our feet. I asked a coworker of mine the next day, who was also a firefighter on that department, what was up with the guy that passed out. He said he can't stand the sight of blood. I said, what is he doing responding to car accidents?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order. Based on he's supposed to be stating facts of why we are for or against the rescue squad, and he's going into personal stuff by mentioning the sheriff and now singling out an anonymous firefighter. Point of order, please.
Lonnie, could you keep this to the issue, please?
Yes. Then I would just like to say that rescue is a volunteer group, a non-paid group. That's who we were back then, that's who they are today, and hopefully that's who they will be in the future. There was a letter given to the Public Safety Committee last week at a meeting that was drafted by 3 fire department chiefs. Of course, they are going to state some facts, and they are going to say that rescue probably isn't necessary because it's a duplication of services. Those 3 fire chiefs are in areas where rescue's primary response area doesn't go unless it is for mutual aid or they're requested. I believe that the $20,000 to fund rescue versus a $109 million county budget is petty cash. So I would hope that any vote taken today by the supervisors would reflect facts and truths and possibly not something that is personal against the rescue squad. Thanks.
Is there anyone else that wishes to make public comment at this time?
Hello, I'm Ron Hilgard, president of the Corvettes of the North Car Club, and I'm here also in support of the Wood County Rescue. We do an annual car cruise and car show. Now we're just doing the car cruise, and there's a major reason why that event is so big. We run between 700 and 800 cars in our car cruise every year, and the main reason that's so successful is because of Wood County Rescue, for 2 reasons. First reason is everyone knows they're coming there in support of Wood County Rescue. Second reason is in the 30, I think next year will be 35 years of our car cruise, we've never had one incident where we had a problem with traffic and we cross a 65-mile-an-hour Highway 54 with the help of Wood County Rescue. And we wouldn't be so successful without them. That event brings a lot of money along with the aqua skiers into this community. So I ask the Wood County Board to support them. I hate to see all their hours of training and all their years of experience, along with all their good equipment, being thrown away. So please, I ask for your support. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time?
Hi, I'm Bobby Donahue. I'm a business owner from the area here, also a resident, excuse me, all my life. The Wood County Rescue Squad has provided service to probably almost everyone in this room at one time or another. I think we're all affected by it in a positive way. I think the amount of money that the individual taxpayers take out of their pocket for that volunteer organization is very, very minimal. As a business person, I'd love to have that kind of value in my business on a day-to-day basis, where people will volunteer and work for almost nothing to provide such a great service that affects so many. Emergency help, whether it's rescue, through accidents, fires, drownings, whatever, a lot of times don't affect all of us individually. But to the people it does affect, it's a big deal. And when that becomes you or you're involved or one of your relations involved, all of a sudden it's a much bigger subject. So as a businessman from the area, I personally received benefit from what they've done through numerous events. And everybody else that has spoken has talked a lot about what the community gets in return for the Wood County Rescue. So many events that are held in the Wisconsin Rapids area are affected by the Wood County Rescue Squad. And I think one of the big things that we have to recognize is not the expense that it has, even though it's quite small, is that when it saves the board and saves the budget on an annual basis, if those people had to be paid for all those services, it would be a much, much different conversation that we're having today. But because it is such a great value and they work essentially on a will call basis to jump out and take their time away from their jobs and their families and things to do these events at basically no reimbursement, I think it's something that we as a board should study really hard before we vote on this today. So I ask for all of your support, Mr. Chairman and all of the board, to please support this to reinstate the Wood County Sheriff's Rescue. And I would like to thank them personally for what they do for this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Mandy Adamski. I am a current member of Wood County Rescue, but today I'm here to talk to you as a parent. Nearly 5 years ago, when my daughter Lauren was just 2 years old, she was nearly crushed to death in our home when the kids tipped over a dresser that had a TV on it, the TV crushing her skull. She had too many skull fractures to count, and to this day, the many doctors involved in her initial month hospitalization, multiple surgeries, and follow-up care cannot tell me how she survived, let alone how she endured with no cognitive deficits and only minor physical deficits. Some of those include total hearing loss in 1 ear, partial loss of control in her left eye. She had a facial nerve graft to help correct the total loss of function of the left side of her face. The night she got hurt, it took an army of emergency personnel to get her to the right doctors at the right facility in the least amount of time. I firsthand have seen the teamwork it takes when trauma occurs. I spent months second-guessing my actions when she got hurt. Was there more I could have done? Did something I do cause more damage? It was in my own healing that I went back to school to become an EMT. I never wanted to feel that helpless again should someone I loved be hurt. The people that made the largest impact in my own recovery, the same people that picked me up off the floor when Lauren's life was in limbo, were the emergency personnel. I figured if I could make even a fraction of that kind of impact in someone's life, it would be worth it. I didn't know how to do more for my daughter, so I learned. Although it's years later, and so many people have assured me that there was nothing I could have done different to prevent her deficits, I still wonder. That brings me to my son, Logan. He is on the autism spectrum. He's nonverbal. He's an adrenaline junkie with no fear, who doesn't feel pain and loves water. He is, by all accounts, a parent's worst fear. I wouldn't change him. He's the sweetest little boy you would ever meet. If he were lost, he wouldn't know it. He wouldn't seek out help of any kind. He wouldn't seek shelter. He loves the water, and we have many lakes, we have the river, countless pools and streams. He has other physical disabilities that also keep him from being a good swimmer. Like any parent, I would do anything to keep him safe and happy. Since I can't and wouldn't change him, I have done other things to keep him safe. He is a client of Project Lifesaver. That wasn't enough for me. I joined Rescue to learn how to help him. Whether it be through Project Lifesaver, water, or ice water rescue.
That is your 3 minutes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Gus Mancuso, longtime resident, 1979, moved to the area. Throughout our country's history, it has been part of a uniquely American tradition to join together to confront a problem, fill a need, serve others, or establish a community of purpose to make life better for others. In the 1830s, Alex de Tocqueville, a French writer, authored a book called Democracy in America, which was based on his visits to our country. What surprised him the most was that most America's power came from the bottom up in what he called voluntary associations. He observed that in town after town he visited, people discovered something they needed or wanted to do something and just did it. At the heart of America, he observed was a twofold spirit of self-sufficiency along with kindness, friendliness, and cooperation. In America today, we see less kindness, friendliness, and cooperation. Our communities are less stable, more polarized, and less connected. We've substituted face-to-face relationships with how many followers we have on Twitter or the number of friends we have on Facebook. Today, we have an opportunity to preserve, support, and encourage what true community looks like and what was observed nearly 200 years ago. We have a chance to model for others what a true community association looks like by maintaining the Wood County Rescue Squad. As residents and supervisors, we need to ask ourselves, how can we expand this volunteer association through the entire county? From north to south, we have a golden opportunity to work together, put our differences aside, and increase the number of people served by the squad. I ask the supervisors today to pass this resolution before you. I ask residents as well to step up forward and do their part from the bottom up and grow the squad. My hope is that there's an increased resident engagement in the rescue squad, that residents, supervisors, and leaders work together to expand it, and that additional residents throughout the county are served. Let us be the county that others talk about when they look for examples of grassroots involvement and residents making a difference for others. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michelle Dorhurst from Port Edwards. I'm here today in support of Wood County Sheriff's Rescue and the wish that the County Board approves the resolution for its continued operation. I'm a parent who at one time was on the other side of the rescue scene when our son was involved in a critical motorcycle accident. My husband and I received the call that our son was in a crash 2 miles from our home. We arrived on scene, seeing the EMS personnel treating our conscious son who had numerous serious injuries. A rescue member in their private vehicle was first on scene, with Rescue 3 shortly after, along with fire and EMS units. Arriving at the scene and seeing those working on him gave great peace of mind and heart, since we were positive Jason was getting the best possible care. The quick work got him assessed, loaded in the ambulance, and brought to the airport for flight, arriving at St. Joe's within that golden, critical hour. For Jason, that is the reason he is alive today. Considering on hospital arrival, it was determined he had a torn aorta. Seconds actually counted for this young man, and if it wasn't for quick response, scene treatment, and fast transportation, we wouldn't have him with us years later, who is now a husband with 2 sons of his own. We are fortunate to also have a rescue member follow me home as I grabbed needed items and was adamant to drive us safely to the hospital due to what he was seeing in us as concerned parents. The squad's support during the months following was an important part of Jason's rehab and recovery. Jason became an associate member of Rescue, allowing him to be a part of EMS unit with being differently abled in a wheelchair and serve in other needed support areas in the squad. I am also a retired Wood County Sheriff's Rescue member. My husband Dennis and I having served a combined 35 years as rescue technicians. If it wasn't for Rescue, I would have never considered becoming a dispatcher, recently retiring after 28 years of service. I'm not the only one Rescue has to thank for directional career and avocation choices. Our Scouting Explorer post gave direction to many teens with interest in EMS and the experience the world offered. Some need a grounding and positive environment for living situations. On Quick Call, we have over 35 plus people that started with Rescue and continued on into going into long-term careers in fire and EMS, nursing, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, DNR officers, law enforcement, 911 dispatch, corrections, emergency services, instructors, safety officers, healthcare administrators, and other service fields. Many of them still reside in the Wood County area serving its citizens. Having trained all over the state so many times, I've heard, wow, you're lucky to have this service where you live. Wood County is fortunate to have all the skilled services they have access to, and that includes Wood County Sheriff's Rescue. Please pass a resolution which allows Wood County Sheriff's Rescue to continue as a community access. asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dave Westfall, President of Wood County Sheriff's Rescue. We are here today to present information regarding Wood County Sheriff's Rescue and to ask you to take this information into consideration when voting for the proposed resolution. As you can see, we have tremendous support with our community, among other departments. In area of business, it's amazing to see what we have able to touch many lives in the past 60 years. Part of this is due to a wide array of services we offer, support between departments, and a large service area we cover. There has been much talk about duplication of services. I will not stand before you and deny that there are departments in our county that have some of the same similar services. I will not tell you that you do not train enough or do not have the right equipment for the job you're doing. What I will tell you is when you look at the services our county has to offer to the citizens and tourists, with or without rescue, some of the numbers are staggering. Let me share some examples. We have 18 fire departments with over 500 members. Over 300 of them have emergency medical training on some level. Of those 18 fire departments, there are 8 that have 0 extrication tools. We carry a set on each truck. Of the 10 departments that have extrication tools, only 7 have trained extrication technicians. There are 7 boats available between the 18 departments. We have a boat, 2 wave runners. Project Lifesaver, there are only 3 agencies and us. These numbers are compiled from the 2017 Fire and Rescue Service Resource Inventory forms provided by the fire departments to the Wood County Emergency Manager. There are many other services we provide, from traffic control, scene safety, diving, water rescue, off-road rescue, landing zones, to criminal scene containment. I won't list them all. My point is, we are a trained and skilled group of volunteers that is versatile in many aspects of public safety, including those that other departments may lack, whether due to funding, member numbers, or they may not feel the need for our services. We help bridge that gap countywide. There's a folder in front of you. The first page is an overview of the value not only of our main responding truck, Rescue 3, but also a secondary truck, Rescue 4. Our ATV, wave runners, and wave runner trailer. Please keep in mind these values are dealer retail values. This is what the dealer would put on these items on the lot. So they include dealer profit and negotiation room. As you can see, for all these items, including the equipment currently on Rescue 3, the total retail value is under $80,000. This is far less than $120,000 value you were originally given for Rescue 3 by the sheriff. The county will not profit financially as much as the sale of this equipment as you were led to believe. The individual estimates are on the following pages. You're advised by the sheriff that Rescue 3 would be replaced in 2 to 3 years. In fact, he has repeatedly stated publicly.
That's 3 minutes. So, sorry.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Chairman. I am Brandon Franz, the Vice President of Rescue. I just want to continue on from what our president was saying. Here's some additional information on Rescue 3. It has a diesel truck engine in it, like you'd find in a dump truck, tow truck, medium-duty ambulance, or school bus. This engine is known for its durability and has a life expectancy of 550,000 miles, at which time the engine is designed to be overhauled at a far less cost than replacement. It currently only has 84,000 miles on it. The box of the truck is made of composite plastic, so it will not corrode and rust in our environment. The hood and fenders are fiberglass. Not only will they not corrode, they are less expensive to repair or replace should they ever be damaged. This truck was made for longevity and will not be replaced anytime soon. Taking into consideration the lower financial profit from equipment sale and the reduced expected cost of truck replacement, it is not as financially beneficial to disband rescue as the sheriff has made it seem. We are not asking you to fund us in the upcoming year. We are asking you to vote to accept the resolution before you today, to give the incoming administration the opportunity to evaluate us as the department transitions and determine if we fit the needs and direction the department is going. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gordon Gottfried. I live in the town of Port Edwards also. I'm close to Dan and Bob. My nitrate water 2012 was 18.7. It's now in the mid-30s. The lowest it's been this year after testing is 29.0. So I'm just wanting to emphasize that this is not going to go away if we continue our agricultural practices as they are. And I'm asking them to move forward with helping to clean this up. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here today wishing to make public comment?
Hello, my name is Alyssa Erdman. I'm a former member of Grand Rapids Fire Department. I was both a firefighter and EMT who helped alongside the Wood County Rescue on many trainings and also many car accident scenes where they helped extract people from vehicles, helped with C-spine and anything that was needed. Earlier this year, I was in a car accident myself that I was lucky to walk away from. Grand Rapids responded along with United and Wood County Rescue. With the help of Wood County Rescue, they were able to extract me from the vehicle and hold C-spine. Without their help on that accident, I don't know if I would have walked away so lucky today. So I hope that they can continue to be an asset to our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. My name is Heather Vansel. I'm Vice President of Rapid Search and Rescue. I'm here as a citizen of Wood County to show my support for Wood County Rescue. I want to stick with the facts. When there's an emergency, mutual aid is critical. Time is of the essence. I've witnessed it hands-on. I've had family members in accidents. I've had family members who have gone missing. And when this happens, and this can happen to everybody, when your loved one goes missing, you are going to want every resource available to you. It's pennies on the dime to keep Wood County Rescue up and going. They put all the effort into their equipment with getting corporate sponsorships, grant writing, fundraising. They do this year after year to save taxpayers money. So please support the resolution to keep them running. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time? Anyone else? Last call. Okay. That will get us into the packet. We have no referrals this month. So without objection from the board, I would like to move directly to the resolution regarding the rescue squad. Is there any objection from the board to doing so? Seeing none, we will move to the resolution on page, I believe, 7 of your packet regarding the rescue squad. And I will ask the clerk to read that resolution, please.
This will be Resolution 18-12-1. To go on record in support of having newly elected Sheriff John Becker be given the opportunity to study the need for and scope of services to be provided by the Wood County Rescue Squad. Fiscal note, the direct cost to the county of operating the volunteer Wood County Rescue Squad is several $1,000s per year. The 2019 Sheriff's Department budget anticipates the cessation of the rescue squad, and on January 1st of 2019, and the sale of the rescue squad equipment by the end of 2019. Approval of this resolution would require the sheriff to report to the board by the end of 2019. As to his proposals and costs therefore. The board might then need to act to address funding issues depending on the sheriff's plans.
Motion to approve by Glenn, second by Hamilton. Discussion. Supervisor Lynch.
Mr. Vice Chairman, it's not the resolution that was brought forth by the Wisconsin Legislation and Judicial Committee. It was moved by Brad Hamlin, seconded by Ken Curry to make a decision about discontinuation of Sheriff Rescue at the County Board meeting for December 2018.
That's the resolution.
Vice Chair Roder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just have a couple of comments, and I certainly am in support of this resolution, but I want to remind the audience that this resolution just calls for the study. It doesn't call for the reinstatement of the funds, which will be dependent on the study. There are a couple of things that I would like to say. Number one, this never was a north-south issue, so please, you guys that are talking about the north-south issue, when this was presented to the executive committee, it was a purely budgetary item. There was never any mention about the north-south. I've talked to the newly elected sheriff, and I encouraged him that if the study that he does shows that this continues to be unnecessary, and his recommendation to his committee and then to the county board is to continue this, is that we do everything we can to make connections and let people know that this is a Wood County service. And I don't know if mutual aid, MOUs, I don't know what needs to be done, but the newly elected sheriff certainly is able to start making those connections. There are those of us on this county board that have worked many years to try to remove the Mason-Dixon line from Wood County. And to continue to talk about that, I think only encourages further talk that we are not one county. And so I just want to assure you that there was no discussion at the executive committee or at the county board of this being a north-south issue. I understand how that would happen because the services that are given by this organization primarily are in the Wisconsin Rapids area part of our county. And, you know, as a county with two major population bases, it's very easy to continue to talk about that north-south thing. And I think the more we talk about it, the more damage it does, especially for those of us that have worked hard to provide services throughout the county and just not in one locale, okay? I think that one thing that I would like to know, because I know that this was sprung, and when our previous sheriff brought this up, you know, the executive committee kind of said, well, where's the rescue? Where are they? You know, we hadn't even heard from anybody until this hit the paper, and so I appreciate the effort that you guys have made to educate us and to be involved in this discussion. I'd like to know, how much does this really cost? I appreciate this packet that you guys gave out because it really helps me to understand a little bit of the value. And then what is the actual value of the services that is provided, and how can we reach across boundaries in our county in order to help everybody benefit from this service that may indeed get some county funding from county taxpayers, not just from the taxpayers in the Wisconsin Rapid area. So I am totally in favor of this, but I'm looking for a thorough study about what all of this is. And you're right, we're not talking about very much money in light of our millions of dollars budget. So I encourage our newly elected sheriff to really look at this from all angles and to really tell us what the value of this is, and then to in some way assure us that we're going to do whatever we can to make services throughout Wood County and not just in the Wisconsin Rapids area. Thank you.
Supervisor Jeff Krug.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And very good, Madam Chair. I agree with everything. In particular, I know it's kind of hard to believe, Donna, but I do agree with you. Especially the part that the resolution is just simply stating that the sheriff-elect will give thorough thought to this. Excuse me. And for that fact, I'm not so sure the resolution was even needed, because, Marla, correct me if I'm wrong, financially, Sean has money in this line of his budget to move forward if he wants to or not.
without the oversight of the County Board of Public Safety. Another thing, lost my notes here. Here we go. The situation, despite the emotion that was elicited, I can certainly understand. I'm part Italian, and I understand the emotion of the issue. Excuse me, gentlemen. And also, we had a really good talk at Public Safety at our last meeting where rescue supporters, were there and presented the facts. I say all this to go back to 1978 in October when I was in police recruit school, and at that time I had black hair and a lot more of it. But one of our professors at that time told us, he said, "Gentlemen, I want you to know as a last thing before you graduate, that when it comes to the issue of safety, police cannot give the appearance or speak against safety." So for some reason that thought popped in my head last night, and for that reason I will be voting in support of this resolution. I also would just like to finish with the fact that if Sheriff Becker decides he does not want it, my vote will support the sheriff. If Sheriff Becker decides he wants it, my vote will support the sheriff, because I am not a micromanager of the Sheriff's Department budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Clendenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't understand why anybody would chastise people for speaking about the north and the south here, because the phone calls that I received from the north were, we don't need it up north. You people down south got it all. So these people are not the ones that are setting up the north and the south regime again. And besides that, it was spoken about that the executive committee, I don't think the executive committee even discussed this issue. That's why it was brought before the Judicial and Legislative Committee. And practically we went and agreed to have the meeting early so we could hear from these folks. Otherwise, I don't even think there would be a resolution before us, as was indicated. I don't think we need a resolution. I think we need a resolution to tell the new sheriff that there's a bunch of people here. Where is the sheriff today? He is still the sheriff. Why isn't he? Where is the people from the committee, the safety committee, that said, we don't want this? Then go ahead in the budget. They didn't want the department. Now, fine. But to scold people for giving their testimony here on this. My daughter started out in this many years ago, and she was a member of the rescue, and she lived in the town of Grant. I think we should support this resolution as it's presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you. This would be Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with all the public comment that we heard this morning, and I probably can't be or won't be as eloquent as some of those speakers were this morning. I could hear the passion in the presentation that they made. And from a cost-value proposition, the rescue squad in this county is probably the best value that we have in any of the programs that we run. I've had the opportunity to be in Washington, D.C., to be at the White House, and to be at the Capitol, to meet with the national security agencies, Homeland Security, the FBI, and others when we talk about critical incident management. And I can tell you right now that we have nowhere near the assets available to be brought forth should we have that mass casualty, that huge critical incident. And to even think about reducing the capability that we have in response to those particular incidents seems somewhat nonsensical to me. We shouldn't be looking at cutting the rescue squad at all. We should be looking at expanding the rescue squad, as you probably heard here. The small investment that we make for the return that we get is just incredible. Whether they're talking, and you heard some of it, the water ice rescue, the extrication, the event management, just the things that they do from a public relations standpoint in this community when they staff events such as the water ski tournament, which is mentioned as a water ski tournament, but is a major economic driver in this area, or the triathlons, the other events. Just that public relations aspect is huge. So not only would I encourage a vote for this resolution, But I would certainly encourage that as soon as we reach the first of the year, that we move the contingency to fund the rescue into at least this next year in perpetuity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Is this on?
Hang on to.
We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Fisher.
I do not have any discussion, but I do have a question that would help me understand better how to move forward for myself. Is this resolution states that this will be a study. I would like to know two things. When will the study be done, and what will be the protocol after the study is completed? How will that decision be made? Will it be made here at the county board, at a committee level? How is that decision made after the study is done? Thank you.
Peter, you wrote the resolution. Would you like to address that?
Mr. Chairman, our whole voting system is down right at this moment, just as a point of information.
Peter, you can come and just
The sheriff, or the newly elected sheriff, will conduct the study in the way he deems appropriate. The county board doesn't control his actions, and with respect to that, and he will report back when he thinks it's appropriate. I don't want to diminish, be disrespectful to the authority that you folks have, but the sheriff is an elected official. He has the ability to study such matters and report to you. The controls on the sheriff have to do with the financing. And so from my understanding of our finance director in direct communication, not direct, communications with her, that there needs to be a resolution of the funding issue before the end of 2019, both with respect to proposals for concepts of selling the rescue squad and the equipment, where that money came from, where it goes back to, how much it would be, and if in fact that's not going to happen, then what's going to fill the bill as far as the $120,000 that was budgeted for that. And then there's a small amount that has been budgeted for, I believe it's the rescue squad operation, including gas and things of that nature, and that will have to be addressed financially. So I think that answers half of your question. The other half, I believe, has to do with the control and the voting on this. And so the county board will vote on this. The county board controls the purse strings, and the sheriff will have to come back to the county board, typically through committee, and advise as to what he's looking for and why, and where the funds are going to come from. And the county board will support that or oppose it after discussion. And I hope that answers your questions fully.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop you right there. I need you all to sign back in, please. It's not going to sign in.
Doesn't work. Sign back. You got to quit banging your microphone.
Supervisor Serpel, do you have comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Castenholz, I copied everything, but when you mentioned the committee, I presume it's what committee, the oversight committee, would approve this and bring the resolution forward. That would be public safety, is that correct, sir? Thank you, Mr. Castenholz. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Fisher, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to clarify what I'm hearing, if I'm correctly hearing this, is that upon approving this resolution, there will be a study by the newly elected sheriff. He will conduct the study however he sees fit, and if he chooses to fully reinstate rescue into the budget, that would have to come back through Public Safety Committee to the county board in order to move the finances to do that. Is that correct? I just wanted to make sure I understand.
As an example. Simple answer is yes, that's correct.
Okay, everybody.
Okay, folks, if you could please sign in.
I'd just like to clarify the Public Safety Committee. This all started in November. We were sent a notice that we had to reduce our budget by 1%. It came to us, we talked about it, it came back to us on September. We voted 5-0 against it. The Executive Committee voted 5-2 against it. The County Board itself voted 19-0 against it. In the meantime, I was asked to go to the Wood County Firefighters Association, which I did, and explain what the county was proposing. And the comments I heard there was only 4 of them missing, by the way, was to cut it 25 years ago. Southwood County is the only place it's served. It no longer is a need. It was duplication, and they handle traffic only. That's what I was told then. So I don't know, I just, based on that, and there's a letter that's in the packet today, pages 132 to 134. If you read that, it'll explain to you about duplication. The other thing I'd like to do is offer a compromise. If the Southwood County municipalities want this and need it, then why don't they fund it? Go together as a co-op or a consortium, like there's probably 5 of them, and to the county $120,000 for the $507,000 we have invested. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? We're going to take a 10-minute recess. We'll come back to this issue in a couple minutes. We thank you for your patience during that time. We will continue. We were discussing the motion brought from Judicial Legislator regarding rescue squad. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion regarding the rescue squad motion? Very well. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by Judicial and Legislative Committee. If there is no further discussion, please vote. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on into the packet then, pages 7 through 17, we have minutes from the Executive Committee. On page 18, we have the County Clerk's report. Pages 19 through 29, we have the Finance Director's report. Human Resources on pages 30 through 34. Maintenance Department report, page 38. Safety and Risk Management, page 39. Treasurer's report on 40. UW Extension, pages 41 through 47. Which brings us to our first resolution. I believe there's 5 of them here that for without objection we can take together. Is there any objection to doing that with the first 4 resolutions? And I will ask the clerk to read those resolutions, please.
The resolution item 1-1 on page 48 will become resolution 18-12-2 to amend the 2018 budget for finance for the purpose of funding higher than anticipated expenditures. Fiscal note, to transfer $15,000 from available balance in contingency to finance. At the time of this request, the funds available in contingency are $265,683. The adjustment to the budget totals $15,000. Item 1-2 will become 18-12-3 to amend the 2018 budget for Human Services, Norwood Health Center, and Edgewater Haven programs for transfer of available appropriations to functions where actual expenditures are recorded. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The additional appropriations needed for transfers are available and are not anticipated to be spent in the appropriations to be transferred out. The adjustments to the budgets total $278,000. Item 1-3 will become resolution 18-12-4 to amend the 2018 budget for Norwood dietary function for the purpose of funding the capital purchase necessary to replace a failed compressor on one of are 2 walk-in coolers. Fiscal note, to transfer $5,359 from available balance and contingency to Norwood Dietary Function. At the time of this request, the funds available in contingency are $267,372. The adjustment to the budget totals $5,359. Item 1-4 on page 51 will turn into Resolution 18-12-5 to amend the 2018 budget of various highway functions listed below for additional expenditures of $796,227.39 not anticipated during the original budget process. Fiscal note, no additional cost to Wood County. The transfers total $796,228.
Motion to approve those Supervisor Zerflu, second by Supervisor Leitner. We have a motion on the floor and second to approve those 4 resolutions. Is there any discussion regarding the resolutions? Supervisor Ashbeck. Did you have a question, Bob? Did you have a question? No. Okay. Seeing none, please vote. And those resolutions pass unanimously. Thank you. Which brings us to our next resolution brought by Executive Committee, and I will ask the clerk to read that as well.
This will be Resolution 18-12-6 to show additional elements of committed and assigned governmental fund balance projected as of December 31st, 2018. Fiscal note, total committed and assigned governmental fund balance as of December 31st, 2018 is projected to be $6,129,668 detailed below in the resolution.
Hamilton, seconded by Bride. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution. Is there any discussion regarding the resolution? Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. That resolution passes unanimously as well, which brings us to 6, 7. Can we take these 3 of them together? 6, 7, and 8 with no objection from the board. The next 3 resolutions can we take together? Seeing none, we will do so. Would the clerk please read them?
This will be Resolution 18-12-7 to authorize the sale of tax deed property back to former owner. Fiscal note, the paid amount was $12,748.54. Item 1-7 will become the Resolution 18-12-8 to authorize the sale of tax deed property back to former owner. Fiscal note, the paid amount was $21,054.32. Item 1-8 will become Resolution 18-12-9 to authorize the sale of tax deed property back to former owner. Paid amount, fiscal note was paid amount of $13,680.79.
Moved by Hamilton, seconded by Bride. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve those 3 resolutions. Is there any discussion? See none, please vote.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on.
Yeah, no, you can vote.
Please vote. And those resolutions pass unanimously. Which brings us to our 9th resolution brought by Health and Human Services Committee and the Executive Committee. Could the clerk read that, please?
This will be Resolution 18-12-10 to authorize the Health and Human Services Committee or its designees to negotiate and enter into a lease to relocate the Human Services Department's cornerstone location to the former Marshfield City Hall building located at 630 South Central Avenue in Marshfield. Fiscal note, use of budgeted funds only.
Motion by Zaleski, seconded by Fisher. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by Health and Human Services Committee and Executive Committee. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Zerflu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not discussion, just housekeeping. Who would be the designee?
The designee.
Yeah, it says the,
Vice Chair Holder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It'll be our Human Services Director.
thank you.
Any other discussion regarding the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote on the motion. Pages 59 through 76 are Health and Human Services Committee minutes. And that brings us to our next resolution, our 10th resolution, brought by Health and Human Services Committee, Conservation, Education, Economic Development. And I would ask the clerk to read this.
This will be Resolution 18-12-11, to authorize and direct the Public Health Director to execute the attached Memorandum of Understanding between Wood and Juneau Counties, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and the Armenia Growers Coalition. Fiscal note, the MOU is a 4-year agreement that can be terminated by any party at any time. It provides for the counties to bill for their expenses in performing the services they are responsible for under the agreement. The Growers Coalition will advance $25,000 for those costs and will be responsible for paying up to another $25,000. Costs that exceed the $50,000 may or may not be reimbursed. The parties are only committed to discuss them. In that, Wood County provides environmental services to Juneau County under contract. All the reimbursement would go to Wood County. It is not known what the actual expenses will be, but Wood County is obligated to identify and record them.
Moved by Hamilton, seconded by Fisher. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Supervisor Holbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This working? I have several problems with the MOU as it stands. First of all, when the county we started negotiating on this MOU, we were talking about a 10-year time frame, which in my estimation was short to begin with, since water quality problems that are below the surface of this area are not something that's going to be cleared up in a few years. It's generational at best. We're also asking to a great extent with this MOU for the people who are the victims of the water quality to pick up a significant portion of the cost to remediate this. The MOU says it's for 4 years, but when you take a look at the specifics associated with it, we have a statement in the MOU that says once the system is in place to deal with the high nitrate count, there will be a maintenance contract of 2 years in duration. If this is an MOU for 4 years, why is the maintenance contract only for 2 years? In addition, it strikes me that when you start looking at the MOU specifics about what is going to happen prior to the installation of this system, if the plumber involved in the inspection or the agency involved in the inspection determines that the home that the unit is going into is not suitable for the unit, then there are going to be recommendations to the homeowner and through the county and AGC about how to make that home safe for that unit to be installed in. Who picks up the cost associated with that? Some people say AGC, some people say, well, it's going to be up to the homeowner. And once again, we ask the homeowner to cover the cost of a repair of his home simply because the water that his well is in is polluted to the point where it's not healthy. I have a problem with the 2-year ground study that is supposed. What happens if this ground study takes longer? It puts aside $250,000, but it also says it doesn't obligate AGC to pick up this cost. It says that it's going to be negotiated, and who's that going to be for? It gives $25,000 to Wood County to cover our costs associated with that, and if necessary, another $25,000. I guess my question with that is, what if it costs us more than that? Then the MOU says that we will go into some good faith negotiations. I'm not sure that's wise on behalf of the county. Another issue says that there's going to be a 2-year study done by a farmer-led coalition or group that will evaluate the impact of groundwater in the corridor study that will follow. farmer-led. I mean, the largest farmers in this aquifer that we're talking about are the 3 large farms that make up AGC. I'm not so sure that's a wise kind of leadership that we put in that kind of a committee. It seems to me that if we're going to study it and it affects Wood and Juneau County, Wood and Juneau County should be the leaders of that study committee. And finally, I heard over and over that this MOU has no official legal standing, that any of the agencies or any of the groups associated with it can leave this anytime they want. And yet, in the very last paragraph of this MOU, it says that when our representative signs this contract, it will bind the county to it. That sounds to me like it leaves the county holding the bag on any cost that might be associated with this that AGC decides not to cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been fighting water for 40 years. And I tell this story again, I lived 183 feet to water, and I had pesticides in my water in the town of Oasis in Waushara County, and also nitrates. I've attended many meetings. I was almost put in jail for demonstrating in the 60s against the Little Clover River and its pollution. And this is the first time I've ever seen, I know you people are laughing about that, but if I had been put in jail next year, I would still be here. So, to further this is the first time I've ever seen a governmental body, 2 governmental bodies getting together with the farmers. You never had this before, and all I've heard about that in this county board is we're all for clean water. But why don't you guys get together and talk about it? They got together, they talked about it, the health department's involved. I say vote for this resolution, even if you have to take a half a loaf this time. It's good business to be talking about this. We have the town of Port Edwards here. This is one of the times when a town board, a governmental agency from this county came and asked you to do something about clean water. This is the best we can do, folks. Please vote for it.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. As chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, I've been involved in these discussions. We had a joint committee meeting with the Seed Committee because there's some oversight of clean water from both of those committees. And we talked a lot about the things that we didn't like about this MOU. I've talked to the health department people, I've talked to Shane, and this is not a perfect document. I absolutely agree, but there were concerns expressed during public hearing, and I want you to know that we have been doing something. If you haven't read this MOU, I encourage you to read it. It's a public document. It's in the packet for that. And Supervisor Holbrook is right. It is not perfect, but it's a start. It gives us some information that we can use down the road. If the AGC was not giving us this $50,000 over these 2 years, the county would more than likely have to pick up those costs. And so we're thankful that we have some help. I think, you know, we certainly can have our corporation counsel speak to this issue, but he's worked many hours in these negotiations at the direction of the Health and Human Services Committee as well as the Seed. So even though it's not perfect, if you have questions that Nancy Eggleston, who's our sanitizer, supervisor of sanitation, and is intimately involved in this, or our health department, or Shane, there are people that would be willing to sit down. And I think Supervisor Holbrook, some of those questions that you had probably were answered in our joint committee meeting. They may not have been perfectly answered, but at least it's a start with being able to do what we're trying to do to clean up our water. We care. Supervisor Clendenning is right. We want clean water for the residents. We don't want the problems that come with high nitrates. And I think that this is a start in dealing with some of the issues. Supervisor Clenning is right. There is some cooperation here. Now, you might argue that some of that cooperation is simply a cover your butt kind of thing. I don't care. You know, I don't really care at this point. There may be other litigation going on, but we've got to make a start. And because this MOU is a start in the right direction of addressing concerns that we have, I encourage you, please, to support this.
Supervisor Layton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to everybody that spoke on this. Supervisor Holbrook, your concerns are duly noted. I'm going to be voting for this. Make 2 points very quickly. For 4 years, this document will put under a microscope what's been happening to the poor people in the town of Port Edwards and the town of Armenia and Juneau County. The other thing is, look at the last page of the MOU. It has the signature of the DNR chair on it. I think with the new administration in Madison, things are going to change. Let's try 4 years. Let's move ahead for 4 years. We may see incredible progress, and it may be cooperative progress with all the parties whose names are on the MOU. I'm optimistic. Please vote for it.
Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, will be voting for this resolution. I have read it, and I would agree with some of the things that Supervisor Holbrook said. It is not, by any means, a perfect document. At places, I think it is extremely flawed. Yet, it is the best way to move forward. I agree with Supervisor Rosar. It's our best start, so I will be voting yes.
We have a motion on the floor and second to approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, please vote.
I need help.
I can't log in.
I can't log in.
I can't do it.
Jesus Christ.
You're voting the wrong way.
Because he said he was.
Well, the good news is there's a new system coming in about February, so life will get better. Or not. It'll go one way or the other. Yes.
I don't think you can vote names. Can we get one with the 38 vote time?
Yeah, I think I can get that thing to work.
That's all those extra bank minutes we have.
Sure, I'd love to. It's not me. It's not the metal plate in my head. Whatever.
Mr. Chairman, could you go a little more on this? Just hold on.
We may get there, Bill, but we're not quite there yet, so hang on.
I'll take that as a no.
Bob, you have any more cookies?
Guessing no. That was up there. We got to sign in again before we bring back the old clerk.
Try it again.
Oh, do we sign in?
It's not letting me log in.
No go. Some people get it, others don't.
It's a no-go. This is a piece of.
If anybody here wants to we're getting the iPads.
Every 2 years, you don't see it.
Supposed to be in January.
This one has
Next Christmas. Don't say that too quick.
Is that wishful thinking?
If you have cookies, you may eat them.
If you don't want to give it to me, I don't. Mike, you didn't eat that cookie, did you, Mike? Did you eat that cookie already? You ate it, or you shouldn't eat it? Because I wanted it.
There you go, John.
There's no talk.
Oh, yeah. You'll have to make wood chassis.
When she'll go absent when I forward it.
We can sign in again? Okay. Let's give it another try. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution as presented by Health and Human Services Committee and C. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. And that motion passes 17-1. Thank you. Pages 79 through 91, there is the MOU in its entirety that we just voted on. Pages 92 through 100 are Public Safety Committee minutes. Various humane officer reports on pages 101 to 110. coroner's reports on pages 111 and 112. I think it would be appropriate at this time for us to thank the outgoing coroner for her service. We have one more report coming from her. On pages 113 through 134, we have various sheriff's department reports. Various seed committee minutes on pages 135 through 150. Land and Water Conservation Department reports on pages 151 through 155. Planning and zoning on 156 through 159. Pages 160 through 200, the Wood County Land Information Plan for 2019 through 2021. County Surveyor's year-end report 201 to 204. UW Extension 205 to 208. Which brings us to our 11th resolution, I believe, and I would ask the clerk to read that.
This will be Resolution 18-12-12 to adopt, it will actually be an ordinance, number 18-12-12, I'm sorry, to adopt an ordinance to give Wood County the authority to regulate metallic mineral mining, land use activities, and reclamation of existing and new non-ferrous metallic mineral mining sites in Wood County according to minimum standards contained in Chapter 293 of Wisconsin state statutes. Fiscal note, it is anticipated that the increased workload associated with the enactment of this ordinance would not require additional staff. Permit fees shall support staff salary, program administration, and consultation with private consultants. The program shall be self-funded by permit fees. Fees shall be established and maintained to closely reflect reasonable and actual costs and may be revised as needed.
Motion by Hempstead, seconded by Bry. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the mining ordinance. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just some historical perspective on this ordinance. Late 2017, early 2018, the state legislature saw fit to change the mining law in Wisconsin. Before that, in order to mine, you had to prove that your mine could operate 10 years and show a mine that had operated for 10 years without problem. I think it was around February or March, Supervisor Lightman and a staff from Planning and Zoning attended a meeting from the State Counties Association up in Minocqua. It was attended probably, I would guess, about 200 different counties, or 200, not counties, but 200 people, especially in the northern part of the county. And the Counties Association has come up with a template for any county in Wisconsin to change the ordinance. Supervisor, or not supervisor, but Senator from Wausau came up with, added an amendment to the state legislation that allowed counties to change state mining legislation. And that was due in July. And you'd say, here we are in December, we can still change it because we don't have an active mine. If we'd had an active mine or something that had started since July, we would be unable to change this. But we are now. This ordinance does not prohibit, I'll repeat that. It does not prohibit mining in Wood County. What it does is give the county some say in water resources, not how the mining is done, but in reclaim. And it was basically developed by Taylor County in conjunction with land conservation and planning and zoning. The staff has done a good job putting this together. It cost Taylor County $15,000 to put this. This ordinance is not exactly what Taylor County did, but it cost them $15,000 to come up with this. So we're piggybacking onto this. I think it's a good ordinance. It provides the county some say if a mine was ever to go to develop in Wood County. I will be supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor and second to adopt the ordinance with the resolution brought forward by the seat committee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. And that resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Pages 211 through 253 are the actual ordinance. I believe our 12th resolution brought by SEED and the Highway Infrastructure and Recreation and Executive Committee, and I will ask the clerk to read that.
This will be Resolution 18-12-13 to direct the Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee to implement an ATV, UTV trail and route network in 2019 consisting of 42 miles of on-road mainline routes and 7 miles of off-road trails. Fiscal note, $48,300 from 2019 capital improvement planning debt proceeds.
Motion by Hamilton, seconded by Lightner. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by SEED Executive Committee. Is there any discussion on it, Supervisor Fisher?
I would actually like to make an amendment to this resolution. The resolution, this is basically just some housekeeping. There were some things left out of the initial resolution. So what I'd like to amend is in adding to the fiscal note to credit Parks account 57121 by $48,300 and debit CIP amount number 57120 by $45,000 and CIP amount number 57420 by $3,300. And then at the very bottom, I would like to add of the resolution, be it further resolved that pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 65.905, the county clerk is directed to publish a Class 1 notice of this budget change within 10 days, and Trent does have a copy of this. Thank you.
Is there a second to that amendment? Okay, we have a motion on the floor seconded to amend the original resolution. I'm not going to read it all back. Does everyone understand the amendment? It was given by Supervisor Fisher. Yeah, and we can do that by voice. Is there any discussion on the amendment? No discussion on the amendment? We'll do this by voice vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Thank you. Back to the original resolution. Is there any discussion on that motion? Supervisor Clendenning.
As amended. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am voting for this, but I have some concerns with the fact that they're getting involved, the highway department is getting involved not only in routes, but in also trails. They're also doing $40,000 for signing, which I think is not appropriate, because usually in most counties, the people that are with the ATV routes and trails, they usually have a spokesperson, and I understand there's no such person in Wood County, so that's why the highway department is paying for these signs and also putting them up. And the other thing is that to open up new trails or even new routes in the county, it's up to the highway commissioner. I don't think that's right, that the highway commissioner has a right to say that in the town of Grand Rapids, we're going to put a trail in, or we're going to put in a route, maybe on county roads. I just don't think it should be one person to do that. I think the committee should do those things. Still, I voted for it because it's a move, because there's a lot of people want this. And the unsatisfactory thing I found is that the reason we're doing this is because other counties, it expanded their economic development so much, up in the millions of dollars. And so we were promised to do a study here in Wood County to see how much this would increase our economic development, and I don't believe any study was done. I'm disappointed in that. I would have liked to seen it in writing that it was, but still I'm voting for it because it's a move toward ATV routes. Thank you.
Supervisor Zerfeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also be supporting this, but I just want to go on record as saying that the past highway commissioner said the county's business is the routes, the trails are not our business, so I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to address one comment that Supervisor Clendenning made. It is true that the highway commissioner does have some oversight over designating routes, but if you remember, this came before the county board, and we approved in that same resolution that he would actually be working in collaboration on an annual basis with PERC to actually oversee which roads will be designated and which roads won't. And it is going to be the practice of our commissioner and our committee to work with townships, and we want to work with essentially townships that want this. So, for example, if the town of Marshall or the town of Lincoln or other townships do not want this, we will not be opening routes. There will be no trails going into those townships. We will only be working with the townships that want the routes going through. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see us venturing into ATV trails kind of like we have with the snowmobile trails over the years. And I think, Supervisor Clendenning, that I'm hoping that as these trails are developed throughout our county, there will be more ATV clubs that will then develop and step up to the plate and help with trail maintenance and signage and all the things that the snowmobile trails do. And I agree, I will be supporting this, and there are certain parts of our county that are more conducive to developing these trails than others are. And so I hope the public will step up and support our efforts to encourage economic development through this avenue. And hopefully there'll be less emphasis on the county supporting these than there will be on ATV clubs as we move forward to this. But I think it's a wonderful thing, and I may just buy myself an ATV because I think they're kind of fun.
Just by Wood County.
Yeah.
I do have a question for whoever can address it. And is there anything in place? I know we were talking about Jackson and trail development going in towards Jackson and somewhat towards Adams. Is there any type of collaborative effort in place with those counties at present that I'm not aware of? I don't know. Supervisor Krug?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look, and Jason G. isn't here, or is he? I guess he's on vacation now. But there is, Planning and Zoning has done a couple exploration of connecting trails into Clark County and also into Adams County. It's just in the original, the starting part of this. So the other thing I want to bring up is there was talked about grant funding. I'm not an expert on this, on ATVs, trails and routes, but part of the deal, I believe, on getting the grant is initially we have to get something started before we can apply for the grant. So I mean, there could be money coming in the future that isn't available now because of the highway department doing some of the work they're doing right now. The only other thing I'd ask is the highway commissioner's been brought up here. I would ask if he could speak, or if he wants to speak on any of these issues.
Well, you can come forward and use the mic there, or if you'd like to use the vice chair mic.
Well, none of the decisions have been made in a vacuum here. We've worked with planning and zoning, parks and forestry. A lot of the decisions were made through a long plan of developing what we call our main route. That main route does include some town roads, some county highways, off-road system. And what we're looking to do is basically sign that for the entire route. So some of the signing you'll see, we took some out of our budget, and Planning and Zoning had some money in their budget to start this initial signing plan. So some of that money's already been spent. We've already put signs on some of the county roads that we've opened up. The rest of that that we've been spending on signs is going to go on some of the off-road system, and also mark some of the town roads that have been identified as the main routes. So we're not looking to sign every town road that's open. It's just the main route that's been developed as the Planning and Zoning's long-range ATV, UTV trail. So as we develop this future expansion of it, we're hoping that more clubs do get involved and that they also help to sponsor buying and installing signs.
Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to state one other thing. I think sometimes we focus so much on the routes and we forget that this is actually a trail system. The routes are only in place to connect ATV riders to get from one part of the trail to the other. This long term will most likely be managed by Parks and Forestry. They are the ones that are going to be overseeing this. This is an economic development boost by allowing people to come through our amazing forests, our amazing parks, and by creating these trails. The routes are simply connecting. We are not necessarily saying at this time that we're going to open up an entire highway. I just want to clarify that, because sometimes I think in these discussions we muddy up the waters and we make the routes a bigger deal than they really are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be as succinct as possible. It's about time. We've been working on this for years. We are looking at connectivity to Adams, Juneau, Jackson, Clark, and the whole South Central and North Central ITBECs, which have trails everywhere. We are the hole in the middle of a donut that has ATV trails, and there has been substantial economic development because of that. I would encourage your vote yes on this particular issue.
Thank you, Rowan. I see Jason just walk in. Was there any particular question for Jason?
Yeah, Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about connecting between the county and Clark that you did, the Planning and Zoning did? The question was on connecting to existing.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that can you hear me?
No.
Okay.
Don't go ahead, Tom.
Just take it out.
Yeah, one of the things we're looking at doing is connecting to some of the adjacent counties that have strong ATV networks in place. Jackson County is one of them. They have probably about 80 miles of trails there. We're looking at tapping into that to start with.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by C, Highway and Executive. Is there any further discussion on that motion? See none, please vote. And that motion passes 17-1. Thank you. Moving on, Judicial Legislative Committee minutes, pages 255 through 262. Corp Counsel's report and various claim-related documents, pages 263 to 284.
I think you missed the resolution.
I'm sorry.
Didn't you miss the resolution?
We already did.
We got one more yet.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So where we're about Corp Counsel. Okay. Back to page 263. Corp Counsel's report and various claim-related documents, pages 263 through 284. Letter from the HR Director, J&L, page 285. Register of Deeds, page 286. Rescue Squad with it. Resolution on 287, which we have taken care of. Final resolution brought by Judicial and Legislative Committee and the Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee, and I would ask the clerk to read that, please.
This will be Resolution 18-12-14 to transfer oversight of the Maintenance Department and purchase risk management as well as claims against the county to the Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee. Fiscal note, no fiscal impact.
Motion by Hamilton, second by Rye. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by Judicial, Legislative, and HERC. Is there any discussion on that resolution? Supervisor Plymouth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be succinct again. I'm going to vote no on this, and this goes back to the simple adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We spent hundreds of hours putting together a committee structure that has worked in this county, and I guess from my opinion, until such time as the executive committee, which currently has oversight, tells me they're overwhelmed or can't handle this, I personally don't see a need to move this. I sit on the HERC committee, but I prefer it stay where it is. Change for just the sake of change is not of great help. Thank you.
Supervisor Gerfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we changed the makeup of the executive committee back in 2015, I think it was, we moved all 5 standing committee chairmen to the executive committee along with the vice chair and the chair. And there's equal representation for all committees and for all departments within the executive committee. Simply put, this is a solution looking for a problem, and it's going to let politics get into these decisions that are going to be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm glad to hear there's no problems, but every time I was chairman of one of the ad hoc committees to move over to the River Block building. It wasn't the executive committee that did it, because they weren't assigned that. They formed the ad hoc committee of 4 people, which was rather ridiculous because we had a lot of votes 2-2. So then they decided, well, maybe we better add one more person to it. So they added another person to it. The same way with any other thing that's going on. If we want to do something up in Marshfield, the executive committee has to appoint an ad hoc committee or allow somebody to go negotiate something with somebody up in Marshfield, and then they have to come back to the executive committee and get it determined. The executive committee wants more information. I think it's ridiculous that we don't have a property committee with all the property that we have, and it isn't under one committee. We started out trying to get an additional committee, and that didn't work out. People said, well, it should be under a committee, and I think infrastructure, highway infrastructure, what more committee would want this other than an infrastructure? The highway committee. When it comes to maintenance, when it comes to plowing these sidewalks, whatever you do, that's all with the highway department. Why can't the person that's in charge of maintenance be under the direction of the highway committee, where there is plenty of equipment and knowledge? We even have some experts there, I forget what they're called, but I think this should go there. I think the political move here is that it should stay with the executive committee because it's got the 7 members and each one of them is from a different committee. That, in my word, I would hope to even change that to have the executive committee in the next county board of 5 committees, and they have their job. Please vote for this. It's only a trial basis for 10 months. If we don't like it before the next election, we won't have it. Thank you.
Supervisor Fisher, then Supervisor Zerfeld.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To bring some humor into this, miracles still do exist because Supervisor Quinn didn't agree. So, it's 3 of them today. That's 3. Weird. So, miracles still do exist. But
Christmas presents.
But I've been on the board now. I'm starting my 2nd term. I've been on over 2 years, and almost every month I am hearing someone talk about property. At the end of the day, I'll be quite frank, it doesn't matter where this goes, but I think there's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think the issue is we need to start talking about our property issues. We have a courthouse, We have river block. I think that we are not investing the time that we should at the executive committee level. That's my personal opinion. I can see some supervisors react to that, which is all right, but we need to really start looking at this. I think this could be a very good strategic move, and I agree with Supervisor Clendenny. It's a trial. If it doesn't work in 10 months, you can always reverse the decision. Thank you.
Supervisor Durford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why not public safety? Why don't you guys come over there? Why not go to seed? Maintenance, risk management, and for a while IT was in this thing, could go to any committee. Why? Because they do work. All these last two that are on this resolution are involved with every single committee involved here. You know, I just don't see the sense of why you'd want to take it away from the executive committee. I just cannot understand that. And as you can tell, I will be voting no against this resolution.
Vice Chair Roser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the non-binding referendum passed to decrease our county board size from 38 to 19, there weren't enough bodies to have serve all the committees. So we formed, back in 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, a county reorganization committee. Our current county clerk, I believe, chaired that committee. No, Randy Schiffrel chaired that committee, that's right. And I was on it, and there were, some people that were on there that had a lot of input. We talked, I can't even imagine how many hours we met in Pittsville, because it was kind of in the middle for everybody to travel. And we decided at that time that we would form this Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee. I can tell you that the discussion at that time was not that public property that was owned by Wood County was part of that infrastructure. The discussion at that time was that infrastructure included roads and bridges, not individual properties that we, my goodness, what was that? Oh, are you okay? And so that was the discussion. So the intent, kind of, if you want to go back to the intent of committee structure, was that infrastructure included highways and bridges and things that had to do with that. My second point is that the executive committee is approachable. They are always willing to talk. We've been working with property issues with our current treasurer that has been going much better than it has under previous administrations, and we're really making a good effort. When something comes up like the remodel of River Block, there's no problem with, I thought that ad hoc committee was a wonderful committee, and Bill, you did an excellent job of chairing that committee, and we did really good work in getting that River Block ready with input from lots of people. So I would like to repeat, I don't think anything's broken, and I think to make a change is just politically motivated. I don't even understand the motivation. I see no connection between HERC and what the maintenance department and risk management does. I see no connection there, and I would encourage you not to support this resolution. I think it's a horrible resolution. I think it's politically motivated. I am shocked because of my previous conversation with Supervisor Supervisor Fisher to hear his comments, because it's a total misunderstanding of a previous conversation we had. So please, I encourage you not to support this.
Supervisor Curry, then Supervisor Clinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm going to stand up and talk. I mean, initially, this was the word property committee has been thrown around here. The present resolution that's before us has nothing to do with the property committee. But initially, there was a resolution that had the two departments plus IT, and that was to establish a property committee. That did not get a motion or a second at JNL. So I guess you could say I oppose that. I also oppose this resolution. The reason I oppose the property committee concept right now is it hasn't been defined, at least in my mind, what the job is. If we're going to have a property committee, is it real estate or is it actually erasers and pencils for all the different departments? And certainly the biggest problem that the executive board has had recently with property is with the treasurer. Why isn't the treasurer in this deal? So I mean, there has to be more study with this deal. You can convince me that a property committee is defined, I might support it. I'm not going to say that I'm going to support something before it's in front of me. But that's the reason I voted against it. And I will, right now, the motion that's in for us is just a lateral move of taking a couple of departments out of the executive committee and moving it to her. That's not making a property committee. That's putting the supervision under her. I don't know how that's going to solve what we initially started to look at here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you want to study, we're giving you a 10-month study. And Supervisor Rosar, you said bragged about this committee that set up these committees. You were chairman of the legislative committee at that time. You had no legislative committee. We waited, and then 9 months later, we had a motion to have the legislative issues, which are for every committee here, because you're involved in legislative issues, health and human services, what goes on in Madison and things like that. So we moved that to the judicial and legislative committee. And the same way with claims. We get the claims. We used to be the claims committee. And, you know, this committee went 5. I'm going to tell you about that committee that met up in Pittsfield. It's the fact that there was 2 of us supervisors used to attend it. And if you remember right, Supervisor Rosar, we were told we could not speak at that meeting. And I did not speak on it. And one of the things I wanted to speak on was the property committee. And show me in the executive committee where it's outlined about a property committee, what they're supposed to do. Every time something comes up, you take an ad hoc committee and you put them on it. Tell me there's organization there. There's none. Please vote for this. It's only for 10 months, folks.
We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution brought by Judicial, Legislative, and PERC. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, please vote.
There we go. I'll vote yes.
And that resolution is tied. Okay. Moving on. Pages 290 to 298, we have PERC committee meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I am waiting. I have permission for that.
Yes, yep. Pages 299 and 300, we have the Central Wisconsin State Fair Board of Directors minutes. 301 and 302, McMillan Library Board. And pages 303 and 304, we have UW Commission, which brings us to the end of the packet, a very long packet. I thank you all for your patience today. It's been a very unusual meeting, sometimes chaotic, but before we leave, I personally would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. We won't be seeing each other before the next board meeting. And a Happy New Year, and if you're traveling, please be safe. Thank you again for being here. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mike? All in favor of adjournment indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
Please, Tommy,